Greetings, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. My special guest today, he's back yet again, Mike Antonelli from the Brewery at Orange County Hops. We are here yet again. So today, we're going to take that whole top 10 formula and throw it out the damn window, because the artist that we're going to talk about today, he basically throughout his entire career threw every damn formula and whatnot out the window anyway. So we're just going to kind of go along with it. Today we're going to talk about Frank Zappa. So
nice shirt, Pete.
Thank you so much. I had to wear this today, you know. So originally, what we were going to do with this show, like we do on every top 10 shows, we were each going to pick our top 10 favorite songs, okay? And then 2 days later, I get a call from Mike saying,
difficult.
I don't know if I can work within this framework because...
Too difficult.
And because why? Because Frank Zappa did music in so many different genres and styles that Mike was having a really hard time putting it together, or your list was probably like enormous, right?
Well, let me just put it to you this way. This was very difficult for me, very difficult. Frank Zappa is one of the few artists of our contemporary music scene that, I'm talking about 20th century music, who was true to his own vision without any interference from anyone else, and then that's why he was an entrepreneur. He did his own video editing. He produced his own music. He sued every record label that he ever worked for because he wanted it to be Frank's music, and Frank didn't really care.
No, he sacrificed mainstream acceptance to satisfy.
He didn't care.
He did.
What people thought of it. He just wanted to be expressive in a way that was true to his vision.
Yep.
So for that reason alone, I mean that's the first reason why I've always had a deep respect for the man and his music, even though it took me a while to understand some of it. As a person who studied music in depth, there's things in there. I'll spare your viewers the music geek language, but the time shifts all over the place. There are several references to his political views, his social commentary, religious views, his music influences that go deep into the modern classical world of Edgard Varese and Anton Webern, and people who are very serious composers. So make no mistake about it, Frank Zappa was a serious composer. No matter what you think of his tawdry lyrics and his hippie look, he was not about any of that, as far as I could tell in my research. So I just have to say that this was so hard.
Yeah. Very hard, Pete.
You're supposed to say, how hard is it?
How hard is it?
Oh, harder than pulling that chicken out of my ass. That's how hard it was. A dead chicken.
Glad to be of service, because that's why we do this show, to make my co-host go through a lot of difficulty.
You can hold the chicken, but don't choke it.
Okay, no choking the chicken. All right.
That's how hard it was, Pete. And
So we made a compromise. We made a compromise. All right. So what Mike and I decided to do is that instead of just picking out 10 random songs or 20 random songs, because that was my next solution. It's like, well, we can't do 10. How about 15 or 20? He's like, no, that's not going to work either. So what we did was we came up with, 12 categories of musical styles or directions, whatever the hell you want to call it, that Frank created music in and released music in. And then we picked out 3 of our favorite songs that fall into each category. Now, I might as well tell you now, I kind of cheated on a few of these because I couldn't limit it to 3, and a couple have 4 or 5 or whatever, but for the most part I did very well. So I'm gonna read off the categories, and then we're gonna get right into it. So these are the ones we kind of agreed on. Again, there could be more, right? Longer, if we didn't tape today and we had a few more days, he would have been called, because I did it to him yesterday. We had settled on 10, and I said, can we do these other 2? He's like, sure.
Yeah, and then I kicked a couple of yours to the curb that I couldn't find anything.
See, I did everything. 2 pages worth.
Forewarning,
That's all right.
Listen, Pete, I started out just taking a few notes, okay? So let me get my notes out.
That's a lot of notes.
Wait a minute.
Oh, but the most important notes probably on the last page.
Forget those. So
here are the categories. Drum roll. All right, so songs of, and again, these are open to interpretation, but songs about sex containing filthy language, STDs, dirty songs, right? Number 2, songs with epic length could contain rock operas, concept, storytelling, multi-part suites, but more in tunes with lyrics, okay? Number 3, songs that are intense instrumentals, full band jams. Number 4, songs with anti-religious, political, social commentary, that sort of thing, which Frank became very famous for later in his career. Songs that feature Frank's brand of jazz. Again, that could pop up in anywhere here. Songs that are 20th century classical music, Frank's version of classical music. Songs featuring lyrics about outrageous characters, people, and stereotypes.
Almost every song that he ever wrote.
Basically, right, yeah, exactly. I had a hard time with this. I had a whole bunch of them. Songs that are vehicles for long guitar solos or a spotlight for one or more of his band members to solo. Again, that you could
multiple categories.
Absolutely
Overflow with that.
Songs that are psychedelic or trippy sounding, 60s flavored, hippie set, whatever, 60s flavored, hippie music flavored. Songs that feature doo-wop style vocals. Okay, Zappa full on hard rock songs, and then last but not least, I did 5, but we originally agreed on 3. You could probably throw 2 more in while we're talking about this. Top 5 or top 3 Zappa albums in general. Okay, so let's start. I will let my esteemed guest begin with, and you can go through your 3, and we'll do your 3, then my 3, your 3, my 3. Songs about sex, filthy language, STDs, so on and so forth. This is like a game show almost,
Almost.
By the way, brand new Papa Louie at the brewery, which is Mike's Pale Ale. And then we've got brand new hot off the presses. What's this called again?
This is called the Barnyard Brown Ale.
There you go. So cheers. All right.
And it's Barnyard Brown, just like the lipstick that Frank accused all the people at NBC of wearing in an interview. That was so funny.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good one.
Well, I researched it.
Yeah, there you go.
Frank couldn't believe there were so many ass kissers in the industry. That's why they said they're all wearing brown lipstick.
I believe I referenced one of those tunes in my list. So.
All right, I have a sip and I'll start.
Yeah, there you
go. So,
songs about sex, filthy language, STD.
In no particular order or whatever, there's 3 of them that I like, that I thought were brilliant, and they're from back-to-back albums that he released in the period of 73 and 74. From actually, all 3 of them are on the same album of this. So they're all from Overnight Sensation, 1973, and they are Camarillo Brio.
Yeah.
Dirty Love, and Dynamo Hum.
Yeah.
Those are
you got one of mine.
Okay.
The other one I had on my list and I took it off. All right. So for me, Road Ladies from Chunga's Revenge, all about the ladies of the road, right? Tell Me You Love Me, also from Chunga's Revenge. That's another, obviously. And then Dirty Love from Overnight Sensation, which, by the way, is a great album. And I think, Dirty Love that's a dirty song, but it's a great song.
Yeah. And he, the one that you, Road Ladies, somebody asked his wife, Claire, about that. All the songs about his dirty sex and all that. And she said, well, he's telling the story of being on the road. I don't have a problem with that. She said, I would have a problem if he had relationships with those women. But
not all wives were like him. Or like her, I should say.
I guess not.
Yeah. But that didn't go over too well with a lot of rock star wives over the years.
Yeah.
But cool. All right. So that's good stuff there. Fun stuff. And if you've never heard any of these songs, go online, listen to them, and read the lyrics. You'll have a lot of fun with them. And there's probably filthier songs too. But we have a PG-13 rating here on the channel, so we didn't want to get too in depth. So anyway, songs, epic length, rock operas, concept songs, storytelling suites with lyrics, blah blah blah. The big long songs that told a story, that had wacky lyrics, what have you. Go for it.
All right, so my first one is Billy the Mountain.
Yeah, it's got to be, right?
Yeah, that's from the album
Just Another Band.
Just Another Band from L.A. from 1972, featuring the stage names guys named Flo and Eddie from the Turtles, which their real names were Howard and, I did some research, Howard and...
those guys did a lot. They appeared on.
They did. It's not important, but everybody knew them as Flo and Eddie.
Flo and Eddie.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought they were a strange matchup with Zappa, but he kind of worked with them for, about 2-3 years?
Yeah. And one of the things I want to say about that is during the different eras of Zappa, when he changed his bands and he had so many musicians, if you look up the musicians there's an actual wiki page for the musicians that played with Frank Zappa. It's like a dictionary.
I was going to say, it's got to be enormous.
It's several pages long, and there's like 20 people with last names that started with A and 30 people that started with B and then C, and it goes on and on. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of musicians that he employed and that were, instrumental.
Yes.
to his success. So anyway, Billy the Mountain. Billy was the mountain. Ethel was a tree growing out of his shoulder. One of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard recorded. But
a cool song nonetheless.
And so cool, and how he moved across the country and coughed up clouds of brown dirt. Who's making those brown clouds now? And you know what? One of the things Frank in his music that I noticed, the more you study his music and the more you hear, the more you will hear references to former songs in later songs.
Yeah,
and he repeated a lot of the themes, stuff like he had a...
Very cleverly, though, so they were not too obvious at times.
Yeah, he had an obsession with ponchos.
Yeah.
Is that a real poncho? Is that a Mexican poncho? So, if you listen to some of those lyrics, you'll find that. So anyway, that was my first one. Billy the Mountain, and then The Adventures of Gregory Peccary.
Gregory Peccary.
A little pig who drives a red Volkswagen. He runs into, on his journeys, by the way, Billy the Mountain.
Yes.
And Gregory Peccary invents the greatest invention of all time, the most trendy thing, the calendar. Oh, how can you beat that? That is so bizarre. Bizarre.
From the great Studio Tan album.
Yes, Studio Tan. And one of my favorites on that album, which I didn't mention, is on the flip side, the whole backside is Let Me Take You to the Beach.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh,
yeah.
Can't beat it.
Yeah. My
third one, a little bit less in length, but still very memorable. Don't You Eat That Yellow Snow, Sweet.
There you go.
About the adventures of Nanook of the North.
That's right.
And Mom gave him good advice, and he was blinded temporarily by the yellow snow cones that the trapper put into his eyes. Okay,
that's
you can take it from there.
Yeah, exactly. So we got 2 out of the 3 that the same there. So I also picked Billy the Mountain and Gregory Peccary. My third one, though, is the Illinois Enema Bandit from Zappa in New York.
Explain that one to me a little bit, if you will.
I think I'd rather not. You know what? It's funny because the Zappa New York album actually has a lot of compositions that do not appear on that don't appear on studio albums. Frank was notorious for creating like these new compositions on the fly, and they would, during rehearsals, they would just throw out and work out lyrics and what have you. This is another perfect example of it, and this, another really and this a great band.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Probably my number 2 favorite lineup, I think.
He used a lot of the New York studio players at the time, and the Brecker brothers, notably, a horn section.
But Terry Bozzio.
Yeah. Great.
Trying to remember who was on second guitar here. I don't know if that was Adrian Belew yet. I don't think it's on that album. I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't really matter. But anyway, a great lineup, a great live album with all sorts of, and you're going to hear all sorts of other choices for me from that album coming up. So yeah, those are my 3 picks. So another kind of big, long, rambling, ridiculous story that just works on all levels, right? So
Gotta have it.
yeah. So next, songs that are intense instrumentals or full band jams. This is where it gets really fun. What do you got?
All right. Where's my chicken?
Your chicken's over here. Don't choke the chicken. Thanks, Sam.
So the first song, this is as close as I could come to the prop. The first song that I picked was a song about a turkey farm. And this is not a turkey, it's a chicken. I guess
enough.
it could pass for a turkey.
Really skinny turkey.
So, the song about the turkey farm is called The Village of the Sun. And it's an epic thing that features not only Frank's brilliant guitar work, but a real sarcastic comment on the social status of mankind.
Yeah. And some really, really good vibes from Ruth Underwood on that tune, too. Especially on the Roxy and Elsewhere version.
During my research, I uncovered a couple facts about Frank and his obsession with percussive passages.
Yeah.
Comes from his first instrument that he actually studied in school was percussion. He was actually a percussionist first.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Then he was self-taught on the guitar. So a lot of his music features these percussive runs. Frank did not like chord progressions. So even though Frank was very much involved with jazz musicians and jazzy type music, what Frank didn't like about jazz was the Great American Songbook, where everything is 2-5-1, which is a music term for a certain kind of chord progression that most jazz standards are built on, chord progressions. Frank was more of a line writer, where everything had its own, and he would write songs in chunks, in blocks, where he would take a block of music and then all of a sudden shift gears in the middle of the song. Bang! And then he'd go from 4/4 to 3/4 to 11/8 to 15/8. All these crazy time signatures based on a certain idea that he had, and he would interject those very much like a percussionist. And I would have to mention at this point the songs he penned for 2 of his percussionists. I think it was Terry Bozzio, or was it Vinnie Colaiuta? But I think it was Bozzio first. It was called The Black Page.
Oh, yeah. Great song. Yeah.
And it's kind of like a percussionist test to see if how fluent you are and if you can read the shifting couplets and stuff in that music. But anyway,
pretty notorious too, the auditions that he made musicians go through to be in his band.
Yeah,
and talking about how many different lineups and how many musicians came through Zappa's bands over the years.
Yeah,
how many auditions he put people through.
Yeah,
and each one of them was the man. I remember reading an interview, I think with Steve Vai. He said it was one of the most frightening things ever. And this is Steve Vai we're talking about,
yeah.
Right? So,
well, Zappa made in several interviews. He made the comment that the only thing wrong with live performance is that humans can mess it up. And there is no perfect performance, but he strove to be a perfectionist, and he wanted his music represented perfectly. So he got the best talent and technically masterful players, just like he was with his guitar playing, self-taught, and he influenced a lot of guitar players,
and one of the most original sounding guitar players ever.
Yeah,
Great. What's your next choice there?
So where are we at? Village of the Sun.
Yep.
The next one is called Inca Rhodes.
Brilliant. My favorite Zappa song of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Love it.
So it's on your pick too, then.
Yeah. Yep. I listened to it like 3 times this morning. I was like, oh, man, I can't get enough of that song.
Okay, and then my third one is a song called Dupri's Paradise, which featured a very young Jean-Luc Ponty, again of notable and solo career on his own after his tenure with Zappa.
Yep. Great career he had.
Yeah.
Those are 3 great choices.
Thank you.
So here's the first section where I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to give you 4. My number 1 pick Well, Inca Rhodes, obviously. We already covered that. Number 2, Cruising for Burgers from the Zappa New York album, which I think blows away the original version that came out on the... God, was that on Uncle Meat? I forget. It was on one of the early albums. I forget. Anyway, Cruising for Burgers on Zappa New York is just a rampaging, blistering tune that's got like the full band just totally pumping away. A great Zappa guitar solo. A really, really great tune.
Was one of my picks, actually, but
Burgers, yeah.
but I threw it out because I'm only allowed 3.
Oops. I let you know at the beginning I was going to cheat a couple times here, so I'm the host of the show. I can do that.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
My number 3 is King Kong from Uncle Meat, which I think is just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Jean-Luc Ponty, who of course made a name for himself playing King Kong in his solo act as well. And then my cheater pick here, back to the Zappa New York album again. I'm telling you guys, if you haven't heard that album, do it. The Purple Lagoon.
Yes, also was on one of my lists. I've got several lists, as you can see.
Yes.
All handwritten, scribbled notes. I was up till like 3 a.m. one night doing this, and then this was the hardest.
So he and I were talking on the phone the other day, and I could hear his wife Alva in the background saying, "Pete, you can't imagine how much work he's been putting into this." So I was like, "Oh man!"
But it's fun. It was a fun assignment. So yes, I thank you for that.
Now you know what I go through every week when I do 3 of these type of shows a week.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that was a fun category. So next we're going to move into the anti-religious, political, social commentary type stuff. So here's all the wackiness comes in. What do you got?
So the first one was from his commentary about the Nixon administration and the race riots in L.A. in 1964, I think was when that happened. And it's called in reference to Nixon, the son of Orange County, and Trouble Every Day, which features one of the coolest guitar intros that I think that Zappa had. There's another one that I would like to... of course, the lick for... we didn't get there yet. Never mind. I'll bring that up.
No jumping the gun.
No jumping the gun, right. Son of Orange County, Trouble Every Day. Okay, my next pick. Here's the lick that I was talking about. I'm the Slime.
Oh.
Also from Overnight Sensation.
I didn't even think of that one.
I don't know if I was in the right key there. It's a sharp minor.
Yeah.
But that is one of the coolest licks.
That is. That's a great
And
song.
It hooks. It's a hook right from the beginning. I love that lick. I
know the
sing
vocal
that
interplay going on that. Yeah,
right. With that kind of go with his like doo-woppy vocals, I love the background characters in that. Little aside on that Overnight Sensation album, he had, I think that's where he had the Ikeettes come to the recording studio. And Ike Turner said after he heard what they were doing in there, he goes, "Please don't give us any credit on that. We don't know what this
crap is.
Stuff is. Please don't acknowledge the credit for us on that record." The background singers. All right. And since we have anti-religious, I don't know if Frank was actually anti-religious, but I think
anti-church more.
Yeah, he had more problems with the rules that those institutions put on people than the actual institution themselves. Frank was not about any kind of rules,
right,
being put upon him. So my last one there is Catholic Girls.
Yeah, got to be right.
Yeah, from the Joe's Garage album.
Yeah,
Catholic Girls. Yeah.
No, I didn't pick that one because I knew you were going to pick it.
All right.
I had a feeling.
How'd you know that?
I had a feeling.
Yeah. All right.
But I did. There's another cheater category for me, so I picked 4. My number 4 was actually one you already mentioned. So More Trouble Every Day, great one. Here's some other good ones though. How about You Are What You Is? Title track to that album.
Mm-hmm.
That's all about stereotypes, and that the lyrics of that song are about as wrong as you can get. And I guarantee you couldn't get away with those type of lyrics today.
Oh, no.
Guarantee you. And I even watched the video yesterday. And I was like, oh man, this is just wrong on all levels. Anyway, that was my number 1 pick. One I thought you were going to pick, but you didn't. Dickie's Such an Asshole from Broadway the Hard Way, right? Because we know Frank was so in love with all of our presidents, right?
Yeah.
In fact, there's another tune where he just wrecks on Reagan. I didn't pick that one, but and my number 3. is an interesting one. I picked Porn Wars from Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Prevention because that is not really, it's sort of, there's not like real lyrics to that song. What he does is he takes like sound bites and sound clips from a lot of shit that was going on in politics and specifically the PMRC attack against the music industry for like satanic lyrics and sexual lyrics and all that crap. And it's just this 20-minute long hodgepodge of all this stuff. But that was Frank's to the PMRC and to the politicians and what have you. So I just had to throw that in there.
That's a great pick.
So
a great pick.
Anyway, songs that feature Frank's brand of jazz. I know Mike is going to pick some really good stuff here. So
it's actually let's talk about Frank's accident in 1971. Some research that I uncovered. The first thing that happened was they were playing in Switzerland, and somebody shot off a flare gun indoors and burnt the place to the ground. And that's the lyrics.
Gee, I wonder who that was.
Became famous from a Deep Purple song, "Smoke on the Water." But that actually happened to the Mothers of Invention, not to Deep Purple. They were watching.
They were playing. Exactly. Yeah.
And I guess it was 2 weeks later, he's in London, and some jealous boyfriend ran the stage and pushed him into the orchestra pit, which was about a 13-foot fall, as a result of which he had several broken bones, his larynx was crushed, his voice dropped about an octave, and from a broken shin or something, he now had one leg shorter than the other, which he references in Dancing Fool later on in his Joe's Garage thing, or is that Shake Your Booty? I forget which.
I think
Shake Your Booty, maybe. But anyway, so the point being, during 1971-72, before he was able to tour again, he spent a lot of time in the studio because he was in a wheelchair, so he couldn't go out and perform on stage. And that period, I think, was when he wrote a lot of his, the beginning of his love affair with his own brand of jazz. So all my picks come from that period, and then later on, they were remade in some great albums. I would like to say that Inserted Jazz Noise Here is a collection of these, but they didn't at first appear, most of those songs, on that record. They mostly appeared from this other period. Anyway, my picks, and you already mentioned one of them. Cletus Auritus Auritus.
That's a great one.
From the Grand Wazoo, and the title track from the Grand Wazoo.
You gotta have it.
And also I picked King Kong, because the version of that with all the horn players on it from the aforementioned LP, Insert Jazz Noise Here, is one of my favorite rearranged Zappa tunes.
Yeah, we talked right before we went on air about how so many of these songs can fit in multiple categories. So even when I had King Kong on my, what did King Kong fit? On my intense instrumentals, it's an intense jazzy instrumental. So it could have been on either. It could be on multiple lists here. It's just a great tune. Those are great picks.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're right, all from around the same period. So I'm kind of from around the same period too. And again, I cheated here. I gave 4. From the Grand Wazoo title track, absolutely. Yeah. From the album that came right before it, which is very similar in nature, Big Swifty from Waka Jawaka.
I have that in another, that album listed in another category. So yeah, we're 2 for 2 so far.
There you go. And how about from Burnt Weenie Sandwich, The Little House I Used to Live in?
Just a great LP all over, and hard to pick underrated. Just one.
It is.
Yeah.
And then I had to throw Peaches and Regalia in here from Hot Rats. Right? Kind of.
Yeah,
right?
and to me, absolutely. That's a great pick. And to me, I put that in a different category again. So, like I said, some of the categories I had it because I've already had in my mind. Well, this is a great so and so song, but it also fits, like you said, into another category. So I'll talk about that at another time.
Cool. All right.
Coming up.
So we just talked about a little bit of jazz. How about some 20th century classical music by Frank?
Basically, towards the end of his life, when he had been diagnosed, is when he really made an effort, when he had the cancer diagnosis. He made a concerted effort to get some of his classical music out there. Yep. And, he hired the London Symphony Orchestra to play. And the very last album that was released, and I could pick, any song off this album. But basically, I picked. It was released in 1992, the last recording when he was alive, featuring the Ensemble Modern from Germany, Dog Breath Variations, and Uncle Meat from the LP Yellow Shark.
Yep.
So to me, that was the some of the greatest orchestral music that he wrote. And there's lots more that fit into that whole thing. Like I brought some LPs that I have here. For example, this one here.
Yeah.
Studio Tan. That's very orchestral and jazzy in nature. This one here, Sleep Dirt.
I love that.
They both came out back to back. Redunzel was on.
You guys recognize this guy? Looks like the smog monster from the Godzilla movie, Hedorah.
Yeah.
And he was a fan of monster movies.
Sleep Dirt. The ocean is the ultimate solution. Mm-hmm. Yep. Wonder what that means. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's what I have for the orchestral side. No, they're jazzy too, but
they are.
They're very percussive in nature, and that's Frank's brand or Frank's interpretation of Frank's music. I don't want to label it. I don't want to say it's jazz, it's rock, it's progressive. It's all
kind of It
it's
doesn't
all
really.
that.
It doesn't fit neatly into anything. So,
no.
So my picks. I have two older ones, and then one kind of later in this period, right around the time of the material that Mike was just talking about. So Pedro's Dowry from the Lather album. That also was pretty late on.
You got me.
That's a good one, right?
No.
What?
I never heard it.
Oh, you need to.
I mean, you finally found one that I missed, and then there's lots I missed. I'm sure.
There's so much.
I mean, how can you not miss the catalog of over 60 albums? And he had over 700 live performances, and most of the new LPs are posthumous songs that are
recordings. And no two are exactly alike.
No.
You could own like 40 Frank Zappa live albums, and none of them are the same at all.
Yeah.
So Pedro's Dowry from Lather. My other two picks. First one is Penis Dimension from 200 Motels.
Mm-hmm.
Very much a classical type piece. And I had to pick the whole damn album because it Lumpy Gravy. I mean, that's basically just Frank trying to do a symphonic orchestral album, and every song or every piece or movement just kind of segues into the next. And I was like, I wanted to pick out a section or two. I'm like, this is like an episode of Futility. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to give you the whole one. That's it. So I cheated there too, but
that's all right. I enjoy that. That was a nice cheat.
Glad you liked it. All right, from classical music, now we're going to go to outrageous characters, people, and stereotypes. This should be fun. There's a lot to choose from in this category. So,
my number one in that category, because it's just tongue-in-cheek lyrics, and it's about the whole thing of it's a sexual revolutionary type of song. Back now, think about when this came out. In the late '70s. The tune I'm talking about is Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
All right. If you listen to those lyrics, it's quite a story.
Yeah. And I had that on my list. I took out because I knew you were going to pick that one. So I was like, I'm not going to.
I see a pattern here, Pete. Not necessarily.
I'm very good at anticipating.
What I'm proud of. For whatever reason.
Because it's fun when we don't pick all the same stuff. And
That's true.
We're doing very good. But sometimes you can.
And then, of course, I'm going to pick this one too. Montana.
Yeah.
With the line about riding a pygmy pony with my pair of zircon-encrusted tweezers.
You know what it is? My overall list for this category was so long. I had that on my overall list, and I cheated big time. I came up with 5 on this one because I couldn't take any of them out.
To Montana soon.
Yippee-yi-oh-yay.
Yeah,
that's 2 good ones.
That's good. That was a great album too.
Yes.
Coming from the Overnight Sensation, which I had several of my songs from there.
Top to bottom, classic stuff.
And then Cosmic Debris.
Oh, yeah.
From Apostrophe.
I didn't even think of that.
Yes.
Although I have another piece from that album on here, but yeah. And I guess technically you could pick any piece from Apostrophe, right?
Yeah, well, Apostrophe, Cosmic Debris about the fortune teller and so forth and so on.
Yep. Good stuff. Those are great picks. All right. So for me, starting off from back to Zappa, New York again, Punky's Whips. All about angel guitars, Punky Meadows, right? Sung by Terry Bozzio. Very, very quirky, silly song, but I love it. How about the Muffin Man from Bongo Fury?
Yes. Great.
We hadn't picked anything from Bongo Fury yet.
No.
And then I had to throw in, it's kind of obvious, but we're talking about outrageous characters and stereotypes and people. How about Valley Girl?
Yes.
Frank's only real big hit from Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch. Willie the Pimp from Hot Rats.
Willie the Pimp.
And then I picked also Father Oblivion from the Posture.
How many songs is that? Well, it is your show.
5. I know I cheated. In fact, I cheated quite a bit. More than I wanted to. Anyway, sorry, guys.
That's okay. We like your picks. They are awesome.
Songs that are vehicles for long guitar solos or a spotlight for one of his band members' solos. This is going to be
Let's
good.
insert 50 albums here.
Yeah. Because there's only about 3 on every album or more. Yeah,
exactly.
This was torturous.
Frank was an amazing lyricist, a poet, and a phenomenal composer, and also an outrageously inventive and at the same time prolific, I would have to say, guitarist.
Right.
So, I mean, almost every song you want to listen to, you're going to find either accompanying the dirty lyrics, you're going to find an awesome guitar riff by Frank Zappa.
It just comes out of nowhere, too. It's almost like it doesn't fit. It just like everything stops and there he goes, launching into something.
And a lot of during my research, I uncovered that a lot of the live guitar solos, he recorded everything. Everything he ever played, he recorded. So a lot of those live guitar licks, he took them from tape and reintroduced them
into a studio song.
Yeah. So it's like Zappa critiquing Zappa. Well, I really like the way I played this night. Let's put this on the studio version. And
in fact, if you go and listen to like the Shut Up and Play Your Guitar and Shut Up and Play Your Guitar Some More, you'll hear guitar solo, because it's basically 2 albums worth of guitar solos. You'll hear live guitar solos on those albums. You're like, wait a second. That's on such and such a song. It's exactly what he did. He would take them out, edit them out of there, and drop them into a studio song he's been recording. Very ingenious.
All right, so I got 3 that are my favorite for different reasons.
Cool.
Zoot Allures. That's my first one. Yeah. Black Napkins. Very melodic song that features the guitar. And 20 Small Cigars from Chunga's Revenge.
Ooh, yeah. I didn't think of that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I commend you on that one. That's a good one. Chunga's Revenge is really underrated. Really good album. Well, we agreed on one. Black Napkins. Gotta have that. That was my first choice. That was my first choice.
So melodic. And you don't find Frank playing a lot of ballad-type songs either. And that's one that, you know, when he does something that's a little even outside of the normal Frank, if there is such a thing, then I have to take notice to that.
Yeah, I hear you. So that was my number 1. I just didn't have to think about that. Number 2 is a song you mentioned just a few minutes ago. The Ocean is the Ultimate Solution. That is like a launch pad for him to just go into the stratosphere. Man, that's just awesome. And you know what? If I didn't include it in a couple times in the last category, Muffin Man would have gotten through because that's like one of my favorite Zappa guitar solos, but we're not going to count that. Watermelon and Easter Hay from Joe's Garage. Again, another melancholy kind of almost ballady type of thing. And I totally agree with you. I like when he kind of slows things down and does those type of solos. Really, really good. And then my cheater pick for here is not just so much for him playing a long guitar solo, but he was a very generous guy for allowing his bandmates to stretch out. Sugarcane Harris on the Hot Rats album, Gumbo Variations, as well as Ian Underwood, who does a fantastic sax solo on that as well. So that basically, that long tune was like a perfect vehicle for all 3 of them to do lengthy solos. So I figured I'd throw that in for good.
The Underwoods.
Yeah.
What a great couple to have in the band. Of course, Ruth in the beginning in the 70s where they did all those things with
I used to have a crush on Ruth Underwood.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day. Man, you watch the old clips from the 70s, live clips, and she's there wearing like the tight jeans and the almost like bikini top playing the vibes. And it's so amazing. And you just watch it. She goes out a big smile on her face. I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah. And then the Fowler brothers. Don't forget them from that same period.
That's right. George Duke.
Bass player and Tom Fowler and trombonist and Bruce Fowler.
Yep.
and also the other brother played trumpet and flugelhorn.
That's right.
He was on it. All three brothers were integral to
that
time period.
Was that some band?
Yeah, with George Duke.
Yes,
yeah.
George Duke and Pauline Murphy Brock. And
so, yeah.
Songs that are psychedelic in nature, 60s flavored. This was fun, picking some of these.
So I picked, well, I don't know if this one actually fits in there, but it's kind of trippy. Call Any Vegetable.
Yeah, I was thinking about putting that on there. That's a good
because
one.
that's just a song about, something very bizarre,
yes.
and it features the vocals of the Flo and Eddie guys from the Turtles. Also, I put on there Peaches and Regalia. Because to me, that's kind of like a trippy song, the way it just moves around and dances.
Nah, you're
around.
right.
Very,
I can't argue with that.
Very cartoonish. I can imagine somebody sitting there tripping out to that music.
Yeah. With a little cartoon playing or something like
that.
Yeah, I totally see that.
And then my third was Waka Jawaka.
Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So I went a little further back. Who Needs the Peace Corps from We're Only In It For The Money. Okay, so I went way back.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I didn't have that album.
Wowie Zowie from Freak Out. Again, this is real.
The first album.
Yeah, the very first album. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's this happening there? There we go. From the first album, and then from Absolutely Free, Plastic People.
One I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
those
first three albums are very.
I have to check those out.
Yeah, they're very dated, sounding kind of psychedelic stuff, but I dig it. So anyway, all right. So how about another category? Songs that feature doo-wop style vocals.
All right, so I was kind of at a loss for that because WPLJ was probably the only one that on there that was where, but it's not even a Frank Zappa song. It's the cover that he did.
But still,
so I'm going to insert something else in this category. Like I told you, here's my cheat.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal relationship, how I really got into Zappa when I was in college. What really turned me on to Zappa, and I went to briefly. I briefly went to the University of Connecticut. This is a little jazz ensemble recording. This was the year before I got there, by the way. But some of these guys are my roommates in college there, and the leader of the band, or the lead alto player, his name was Rich Pryor. Rich Pryor happened to be friends with Tommy Mars, one of the great keyboardists of Frank Zappa. So I was at UConn in Storrs, Connecticut, and I heard that Zappa was coming for one night to the Hartford Civic Center. So I said, I love Zappa. I would really love to go see him. And Rich said to me, well, I'm friends with Tommy Mars, and he's touring with Zappa right now. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He says, I'm going to give you a little something. If you could find the bus, you give this to Tommy Mars. Knock on the door, give this note to Tommy Mars, and I guarantee you'll see the show. So, without getting into a whole bunch of detail, I knock on the bus door and I get two of these.
Nice.
Which allowed us to sit in the rehearsal, to go anywhere behind stage we wanted to go, to watch the whole show. We got to see Zappa. I didn't actually meet him, but he walked past us. And the cool thing about this that made it really personal years later, this was on October 24th in 1980. And unbeknownst to me, that date would become very personal for me, because that's the date in 1982 that my wife and I eventually got married. She was with me at this show. So I saved these all those years. And I can tell you, I looked it up. In the band, Frank Zappa, Ike Willis, Stevie Vai, Ray White, Arthur Barrow, Vinnie Colaiuta, Tommy Mars, and Bob Harris.
Great band.
And here's what they played that show. Chunga's Revenge, You Are What You Is, Mud Club, The Meek Shall Inherit Nothing, Cosmic Debris, Keep It Greasy, Tinseltown Rebellion, The Dangerous Kitchen, Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me, Pick Me, I'm Clean, Dead Girls of London, Shall We Take Ourselves Seriously, City of Tiny Lights, Easy Meat, I Ain't Got No Heart, The Torture Never Stops, Broken Hearts Are for A-Holes, I'm So Cute, Andy, Joe's Garage, Dancing Fool, I Don't Want to Get Drafted, Bobby Brown, Miss Pinky, Stick It Out, and the aforementioned Illinois Emblem of Bandit. So
that's a ridiculous set list.
Yeah, nearly
3 hours?
130 minutes of one continuous set.
That's crazy.
So now, all these years later, that's 40 years ago, basically. Now, you could see why a lot of those tunes were in my picks because they're in my subconscious. And I didn't remember any of this before I looked it up for this show.
Do you have a bootleg copy of that? I'm sure there's one available.
No, I do not. But that would be a cool thing to have.
I never got to see Frank.
Yeah. And, I'm knocking on the bus door. It's like 12 o'clock noon, and the concert's like going to start at 8 p.m. or whatever, And the guy opens the door of the bus, and he goes, "Yeah, what do you want?" I'm like 19, 20 years old. And I go, I have a little something here from a friend of Mr. Mars, Tommy Mars. Let me see it. And, I don't know who this guy was. He answered the bus door. Okay, I'll give it to him. Slams the door. Bang. Well, I'm standing out there. Must have been 20 minutes just waiting, right? Next thing you know, the door opens.
There you go.
There you go, kid. There's 2 passes to the show, right? Thank you.
All worth it.
Rich Pryor. If I didn't say so in the last 40 years, here's your shout out, Rich Pryor.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I'm
just glad I could get that in there.
That was worth you skipping the doo-wop question for. All right? So I'll quickly throw mine out there. Fountain of Love from Cruising with Ruben and the Jets, which was a whole album full of doo-wop shit. The Closer You Are from Them or Us, one of a later period doo-wop tune. Anyway, The Wind Blows from Freak Out. And I cheated again, Charlena from Chunga's Revenge. So that story.
Good list.
So we're coming up to the end here. So Zappa hard rock songs or, full-on rock songs. Again, kind of tough because, some songs are hard rock, but there's elements of jazz in them. And,
Yeah, that one I don't know. I would have to say from the Live in New York album, and I have it in my notes here, which I didn't put it on this other page. I'm sorry. I was going back and forth that I left out. The Purple Lagoon and Approximate, which is a great vehicle for Michael Brecker to solo on in that Live from New York album, but it's just all over the map, and it's a hard rock song, but it's in a weird time signature, 7/4, which I found very interesting.
It's good stuff. So much good stuff. I rattle off a few here. Zombie Wolf from Overnight Sensation. Mm-hmm. Pajama People from One Size Fits All. Florentine Pogan from One Size Fits All. By the way, that's my favorite album. Oh, I should have said that because it's coming up. Anyway, I digress. Wind Up Working in a Gas Station from Zoot Allures. Pygmy Twilight. I wrote down from Roxy and Elsewhere, but I was listening to, and I'm going to show it to you because you guys, if you don't own it, you got to. I was listening to this kick-ass album, which is You Can't Play That on Stage Anymore, Volume 2, the full Helsinki concert, which is historic. That's the George Duke era of the band, a lot of those guys we just mentioned before. But anyway, there is a Pygmy Twilight version on here that is so rocking and so epic. I think it's even better than the Roxy version. I'm just saying. And then how about My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama from Weezer Rip My Flesh?
Yeah.
Very rocking tune, right?
Yeah.
So the moment you've all been waiting for. Our top 3 or 5 Zappa albums of all time.
Okay, so I'm going to go.
What you got?
I'm going to go with, because I picked so many songs from there, I'm going to have to go with Overnight Sensation. That's number 5. Number 4 for me would be Apostrophe. Lots of good tunes on there for me. Of course, the Grand Wazoo.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. I have it here. This is a great album, which was, again, Frank sitting in the studio, so it's mostly studio writing of Frank, and I can show you in the inner side with the notes. Oh, there's my other guest pass to the Zappa concert. I pasted it right inside the album.
That's where there's been hiding.
Yeah, that's where the second I found it. Yeah, it was in the album. And then insert a jazz noise here. I would have to say it's because it's a big band. It's that format, which is, kind of one of the directions that my musical direction has taken over the years. I love the big band sound and what Frank did with all those horns and the arrangements.
The late 80s stuff. Yeah, he was totally into that.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Cool. All right. Coming in at number 5 for me, the Grand Wazoo.
So we intersect again, my friend.
We did.
That was awesome.
We're going to do it again.
Oh.
Coming in at number 4, Zappa, New York.
Yes.
Coming in at number 3, Overnight Sensation.
There we go.
Coming in at number 2, Roxy and Elsewhere. Coming in at number 1, One Size Fits All. I already gave that away before. So, those for me are indispensable Zappa albums. But, I would throw that in there at number 6 or higher. I don't know, whatever. I kind of forgot about it. But there's so many great albums, and I'm sure you all have your favorite Zappa albums. So this is what your homework is to do, everybody. So you got a choice, or you can do both. Let's hear your top 10 favorite Zappa songs, as well as your top 5 Zappa albums. All right, put it in the comments and feedback. We'll love to see it. Mike will be looking also, so we're happy to hear some feedback on that. So I hope you enjoyed this rather epic and lengthy Frank Zappa dissertation here. For those of you who are not able to join us in person, we're actually going to do a whole Zappa day here at the brewery today, and we're going to actually air this episode live on the big screen in about an hour or so. So if you're watching this tomorrow, you've obviously missed it all. But for those of you who are paying attention today, you can actually watch this today and come on down if you live in the
we have some special surprises too. Like we can have a celebrate Frank's legacy with his favorite lunch food, which was a burnt weenie sandwich.
Yes.
So I'm going to burn my weenie sandwiches in stout, made here at the brewery, brewed right here, and then we're also going to garnish that with Frank's Famunda Kraut, what we call it, and yellow mustard gas.
There you go.
So if who didn't know, Frank's father was a chemist and mathematician for the government, for the armed services, and he worked in a plant that ran tests on mustard gas and its effects, which some people believe led to Frank's multiple health issues that he eventually succumbed to prostate cancer. But they actually had gas masks in the home in case something went wrong. They were that close on a military base to where his father worked, and Frank was very sickly as a child, lots of sinus infections and different things. So.
Probably not a guy who should have been smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day for his entire life.
And let us not forget that what Frank stood for, his image, did not really portray the real Frank Zappa. Like people thought he was a hippie, pot smoking guy, and
didn't do any
drugs, drugs and alcohol. That's not Frank Zappa. That's his. In fact, he despised the hippie culture and what it stood for.
He kicked guys out of the band for doing drugs and alcohol and stuff. Yeah, he was just
sure. If you're depressing your senses in any way, you're not going to be able to play that. Come on. With all your faculties, you're going to have a hard time playing that stuff, unless you're
That's right.
Prodigy.
So anyway, that's our whole Frank Zappa episode. I hope you guys loved it. We're going to have him back again soon, so we'll figure out what we're going to tackle, and we'll do it. We've got, I'm lining up lots of guest stars over the coming weeks, because I think you guys really like this format. So coming up early next week, we're going to be at the Warehouse with Dan Brown once again. We're going to do a top 10 songs of the James Gang. And then I got a really special guest, too, probably in the next week or two. My partner in crime from the Comic Book Geezers show is going to come on. We're going to do a top 10 songs of Jimi Hendrix. Okay, so that's all coming up soon, and we've got rants and all sorts of other stuff that we're working on. Another new product show coming up this week. So, and I've got a questions and answers show. If I don't get to it tomorrow, it'll be during the week because this is kind of taking precedent, but we'll get to that soon. So, in the meantime, visit us on the web at www.ctranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're here on the mighty YouTube, and Mike's got something else to say.
One disclaimer. No animals were hurt during the filming of this project. Chickens.
I hope not, because you know how much of an animal lover I am. So
the chicken was
Is he
already
okay back there? Holy cow, he took a tumble. Man, oh man. So anyway, Mike, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.
And we'll see you all real soon. Take care.
Okay, you guys both look up.